Good morning, guys. How are we? All right. We are going to be getting started in a big episode in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and the podcast will be kicking off with episode. What are we up to? Hello, Christy. How are you, mate? Episode 62. Mate, we are getting pretty consistent with this thing. Taking it to the world. So good. How's your week been, Chris? Good, mate? So my stream seems a little slow today. I'm not really sure why, but hopefully it clears up a little bit. So, guys, tell me how your week is going. What's the measure of the week? How's it all working out for everyone? Let us know in the comments if you are indeed coming in live. I want to see whether we got crew inside the Better Body Academy and outside of the Better Body Academy. Leveling up. This is going to be maybe a deeper dive on a basics topic, which is really going to be a good reminder for you guys that are inside the academy, particularly to do with the whole calorie situation. So good morning, Johnny, my boy. How are you, brother? Or evening for you, mate. I hope you're doing well. Hello, Meegs. Good to see your face around here again. I hope your transformation is underway, Meegs. It's been a while, so I hope you're kicking on, girl. Great, mate. Good stuff, Johnny. I tell you what, good stuff, brother. All right, guys, we are going to get started in 30 seconds. We'll put some heat on this one. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the idea that dropping calories quickly is a bad idea. And I'm going to give you the reasons why that is and what you should do instead. Okay. So let's bring our friends on Instagram in for a bit of live action. And then we can go. Kicking goals, Meg says. I love it, girl. Good morning, Tez. How are you? And good morning, Instagram. I hope you guys are good. All right, let's turn the tunes down and get started on another episode of the pod. All right, guys. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Let's get started. Let's do it. Good morning, Holty. I hope you're going good. Good morning, Tez. I hope you're good. Good morning, Instagram. Hoping you guys are good as well. All right, let's get started, guys. So we're going to go on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. And in today's episode, guys, we're going to be talking about why cutting food down quickly is a bad idea, especially if your goal is fat loss. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about in this topic here today. Now, as an introduction, I want to give you guys a bit of a reminder, whether you're watching across all the feeds on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or coming on Instagram. I just want to give you guys a reminder that on November the 30th, we're going to be giving away $300 each to 2 people. All you need to do is one of 2 things. You need to screenshot your favorite podcast episode or one of these live videos and tag me in your stories. Let's get this message to the world. Or you can always go to the Apple Podcast player, scroll down to the bottom of the player below episode 1. You can leave a review. And if you do leave a review or you share to stories, you will be added to the competition draw. Simple as $300 you could possibly win for 2 minutes work. It really helps us to get the podcast out there, guys. So without further ado, let's talk about what we want to discuss today. We're going to be talking about why big restriction is a bad idea, okay? And we're going to be talking about this both from a short-term and a long-term perspective. Now, why are we discussing this topic? Well, I think that if more people understood a little bit about why this was a bad idea, they wouldn't do it in the first place. They wouldn't enroll themselves in these stupid programs that offer up dumb diets, unsustainable workout programs in the first place. And so I'm going to cut through some of the BS in this episode, okay? So let me ask you a question. Let's talk about you. Let me propose you something. Now, a lot of you are not going to fit this question, but you'll get the drift. If you had the option of either losing 15 kilograms in the next 3 months and putting 20 kilos back on again, or losing, say, 10 kilograms over the next 6 months and another 10 kilos over the next 6 months after that, meaning that you're 20 kilos down over the course of 12 months, but you've done it in a sustainable way. Which would you choose? Which would you choose? Do you want the quick result that leads to you putting it all back on again, but gets you to be able to get your shirt off for summer? Or do you want the sustainable game plan? Okay. The one that you can keep off forever. Now, the reason that I'm asking this question is it's almost a dumb question to ask for most people. But the reason that I'm asking it is because most people choose the first one. They choose the quick fat loss. They choose the rushed, restriction. I need to get down. Oh, quick, I feel good, few photos. And then it's all over again. And the reason that we do that is because people are just generally incentivized by short-term goals, and they forget about the long-term pain of constantly failing in a transformation and never quite winning. I want to propose to you that there is a better way, and I'm going to talk about it right now. So let's ask you guys, whether you're watching here or here, how many of you have been on some form of diet over the course of the last year? How many of you have been on some form of diet? Maybe it was a specific protocol. So for example, you did low carb, or you did keto, or you did carnivore, or you did vegetarian. It doesn't matter what you did. How many of you have actually been on some form of a diet over the last year? And was it successful? How many of us fell off that diet? Like, literally, let me know in the comments if you're watching live, or if you're watching later on, like, hit me and let me know. I really want to get a sense of, like, how many of us have struggled with this problem and how many of us fell off. And so I want to explain why there is a better option and how this works. But first, in order to do this, let me give you a general background explanation on how fat loss actually happens. Okay. Believe it or not, I believe that fat loss is simple. It's actually very, very simple. So why aren't we all got 6 packs? Well, because fat loss is simple. The science of fat loss is simple, but losing fat can be hard. And the reason is because most of us can't do what we know we're meant to do. And there's the mindset and the emotional component of this. But when we actually break it down, fat loss comes down to one thing, and it's based on this idea. What is fat? What is fat? All fat is a storage form of energy. It's like going on a long car trip and having a spare fuel tank in the back, just in case you run out of petrol. That's actually what fat is. The difference is we don't stick it, on our back. We stick it on our guts and our bums and our hips, and it's a spare fuel source. That's all fat is. And so why does the body store fat? Well, the body stores fat because it knows that historically, over time, we've gone through periods where food isn't as available. So if you were living in the plains of Africa, in the depth of the African famines, would it be beneficial for your survival if you had body fat? Of course it would be. If you were stuck on a desert island, would it be a good thing for your survival if you had body fat? Yes, of course it would be. And that's why we store body fat. It's a backup source of energy. Okay. So from that perspective, the only way you can actually get rid of the body fat is if you run out of energy. Okay. And when you run out of energy, kind of like running out of energy in a car, running out of fuel, what do? Well, you either have to go to the spare fuel tank, or you have to top up again. That'd be the equivalent of either getting the spare fuel tank out of the back and pouring it in, or topping up again, eating again. Does this make sense on the basic level? And this is why we talk about fat loss as calories in and calories out, and that's actually all that matters. Now, when it comes to calories in, that's pretty obvious, right? There's only a couple of ways you can really take calories in. Food and drink. Yeah, very simple. But with the calories outside, it's a little bit more detailed. I think a lot of people think that, well, how much fuel I burn is basically mostly to do with how much exercise I do. Do you know, guys, that is such a small part of how much fuel you actually burn on a daily basis is the amount of exercise you do. That couldn't be further from the truth. So I want you to think of when we're burning calories out, very similar to the same way that a car might burn fuel, okay? If we were to look at the way or what things contribute to how much fuel a car burns, okay, let's rattle off some things. Now, number one, how big the engine is, yeah? So is a big V8 engine going to burn more than a little whippersnipper engine? Of course it is. So bigger engines burn more fuel. Yeah. In addition to that, how long you drive the car for. Like, this sounds obvious, but which one's going to burn more petrol? Going for a 1 hour drive or going for a 10-hour drive? Of course, driving longer. The type of fuel you give it. So generally speaking, higher grade fuels are going to have better efficiency for a period of time than lower grade fuels. How hard you drive it. Right? So if you're just roaring your car and not going through gears and utilizing the actual transmission properly, well, you're obviously going to burn through fuel quicker. And of course, how often you service your car. So there are many different things that would contribute to how your car burns fuel. Well, in the same way, the body acts according to what you do with it. And I'm going to give you the examples. And if you can kind of think of it in these parallels between the car and the body, it will make it a bit more understandable for you. So we're talking here about what determines how much fuel the body burns on a daily basis. Because we always think it's just how much we drive the car, right? Well, that's one part. So how long you drive the car is kind of the equivalent to how active you are on a daily basis. And that doesn't just include exercise. That includes your average step count, how much you're moving your body. Are you at a desk job or a job site? These types of things are how much you're moving it. The big one is the size of your engine. This is the biggest thing that determines it. And we call that our metabolism. Bigger engines in a car burn more fuel than smaller engines like a whippersnipper. Well, in the same way, engines that generally have a higher lean body mass are going to burn more engines than ones that have a higher fat mass, generally speaking. The type of fuel you give it. Well, what we do know is that diets that are slightly higher in protein, generally speaking, lead to a higher fuel burn than diets that are low in protein. How hard you drive your car. Okay, well, that's the equivalent to what type of training are you doing? Are you out running and riding, or are you just mostly gentle walking? And the last one, which is the servicing of your vehicle, that's really similar to how you treat your car. It's kind of how you treat your body. Do you put it through loads of stress, really bad sleep, and poor lifestyle quality? So, guys, I just want to know that you're with me on what I'm talking about here. So can you see the link between the car and the body? So the calories inside's fairly easy. It's just the food and drink you eat, right? But the calories outside is a little bit more unpredictable because it involves like 5 or 6 different factors, okay? It's not just the exercise that you're doing. The exercise portion is such a small portion of the overall amount of fuel that you burn in a day, okay? So although it comes down to calories in and calories out, there are other factors which determine how an individual's body responds. Now, guys, let's take a break. It's important to understand 2 things here. What the brain is geared to do. Number 1, the brain's first and most important thing is to keep you alive. Survival. Above anything. Your brain cares far more about survival than it does how rich you are. It cares far more about survival than how hungry or full you are. It cares far more about survival than how you look in a mirror primary goal is to keep you alive. Number one. Number two, the brain's secondary goal, when it has taken care of survival and you're safe, is efficiency. It wants to do things that are easy, which is probably a little bit why it's really hard to get motivated when you're starting from a really stuck point, right? And so efficiency actually feeds back into survival, because the less energy that we spend, the more chance we have of survival, right? Does that make sense? So the body's first goal is survival. The body's second goal is preserving energy. Now, we're really setting up this discussion so that you understand why fat loss is not solved by really quick, massive drops in calories, okay? So when you first start a diet, okay, when you first start a transformation, and for those of you that are in the academy that have stuck to the plan, you will know this. If you've a lot of weight to lose particularly, have you noticed that it's easy at the start? Okay, so if you're in the academy and you've noticed this, that guys and girls generally get a few easy kilograms of fat are lost at the start, okay? Why is that? Well, because the body doesn't see that there's any survival risk, right? There's no survival risk. Instead, it actually thinks, well, from an efficiency perspective, it'd be really good to get rid of this first 5 or 10 kilograms. I don't have to lug this extra weight around. So from an efficiency perspective, that's a good thing. It's kind of like saying, well, if you were a car, would it be better for you to just drive from Sydney to Brisbane with the passengers inside the cabin, or would you prefer to have to haul a caravan in the process? Of course, which one's going to be more energy draining? Carrying the caravan. It's the exact same way. So at the start, the body thinks to itself, well, these first 5 or 10 kilograms, yeah, I'll get rid of those because that's extra weight that I don't want to carry around. But then what happens after that first 5 or 10 kilos disappears? Your body thinks, what if this continues to happen? Survival risk. My goal is to stay alive. So what do you think it does? What do you think it does? In a fat loss transformation, what do you think it does? After you've lost some initial fat, a few things start to happen. And to all of you that are in this zone at the moment, I want you to give me a silent head nod, because I know that you know what this is like. So a few things start to happen. You're not carrying as much weight anymore. So your body doesn't need as much energy, right? It doesn't need as much fuel because it doesn't have to haul the caravan anymore. It's just got to haul the people in the car itself. The second thing is your organs become more efficient at doing their job. The third thing is that your body starts to detect that those fat supplies that you'd saved up, almost like a bank account, you'd save them up, they're starting to deplete. And it detects, hang on, this isn't good for my survival. If I lose all of this fat, what's going to happen? I'll have no fat left. I'll run out of fuel. That won't be good for my possible future. Does this make sense? And so the body is acting exactly like a person that's running out of money in their bank account. The body's saying, oh, this is scary. I don't want to lose all of this money. So it stops burning as many calories on a daily basis. Think about it. The body can't directly control how much you eat, right? The body can't control how much you eat, although it tries to. For any of you that get cravings all of the time, right? For any of you that feel like when you're trying to go on one of these diets, you're hungry and it's messing with your mindset and your hormones feel out of whack, that's your body trying its best to make you eat. This is why we have emotional eating, stress-based eating. This is the reason why, because your body is trying to get you to eat as part of the survival response. But although it can't directly control making you eat, what it can control is how much fuel you burn. And so what does it do? It slows down everything that effectively burns fuel. It, in a sinister manner, makes you more lethargic. For those of you that are in the academy and you are in what we call a calorie deficit, have you noticed how you're not as strong when you reduce your calories down? Why do you think that is? It's because you're running out of petrol. All of a sudden, and this is really for our academy members who have done the mastermind and are deep in what we call a reverse diet. This is when we start to bring our calories back up again. When that's you, all of a sudden what happens is you start to lift your calories, and what do you think happens to the quality of your gym sessions? They start to get better because you've got more fuel in the tank again. Does this make sense? So on the way down, as part of these diets, what you'll notice is that you start to become more lethargic. You will notice that you're hungry. You'll see often a drop in your sex drive, and your overall metabolism will slow down. Now we're getting to a crescendo here, guys. So now that you understand the basics of fat loss and how it can be messed around, let me explain why cutting food quickly is a bad idea if you are wanting to lose fat. There are two reasons. The first is the short-term reason. The short-term reason is, let's pretend for the last 20 years, you've been eating whatever you want. Right now, you've been piling on weight, and I've got in my mind like a bunch of men that have gone through this exact thing, and they get to 40, knocking on the door of 40, and they look down and they can't see their penis anymore because their belly's in the way, and they're like, oh, this is no good. I need to go on a diet. And what happens is they go from eating whatever they want to needing to be on this crazy restriction diet that they read in some magazine or on some website. Well, what are the chances if you've just cut your calories in half and you're hungry every day? What are the chances that you are going to stick to this? Zero chance. How many of you know exactly what I'm talking about because you've tried to do it yourself? You've tried to restrict. I can't keep this up. This sucks. And then you end up falling off. Yeah? You feeling me on this one? It's such a massive shift in your lifestyle. You feel restricted every day. You can't keep it up. The second part about this is the long-term aspect of it. What the research says is that the quicker and more aggressively you cut calories from where you started, the more likely you are to, number one, lose the underlying muscle that you have. So that's not a good thing for your strength, is it? It's also not a good thing for your composition. We talk about this idea of being skinny fat. Can you let me know in the comments if you know what I mean by skinny fat? It's when you kind of, you're not massive, but you press yourself and this just doesn't feel much there. It's because you don't have much muscle mass underneath whatever fat you do have. And so if you cut calories quickly, there is a high likelihood that although you're losing weight on the scales, a large portion of this is not just fat. You're also losing your lean muscle mass as well, and that's not a good thing. The second thing, and this is really the point of this episode, is that if you cut calories quickly from that start point, you will hit fat loss plateaus very quickly. Why? Because the body is primed to keep you alive. The body is primed for survival. And so it sees that you're dropping the food energy that you're giving it, you're cutting it all out. What do you think it's going to do on the other side? It can't control the fact that you're cutting all the food out. So what does it do? It crashes down on the other side. Sex drive bottoms out, nothing, right? You have 40-year-old men that can't get it up. You have complete lethargic, right? I just don't feel like doing anything. I'm so demotivated. I can't get up and go to the gym. I just feel like sitting here and watching Netflix on the couch. And even though you're now eating half of what you used to, because you did it in a crash nature, your weight loss actually stalls. Because not only are you not feeding it very many calories, you're not burning very many either. So the net effect is zero. Your weight stays the same. Do you know the most important and worst bit about this entire story that I've created for you here? What happens when you give up? What do you think happens when you give up? Try the diet, try the diet, try the diet, try the diet. Oh, this sucks, this sucks. Oh, fuck, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. What are you likely to go and do? Eat everything. You're going to go and eat everything. And when you eat everything, all of a sudden, the bounce back factor, because you've been in this period of restriction for so long, as soon as you start eating again, the body's thinking, all right, quick, while she's eating, let me quickly store this as fat to make sure that if she does it again, we have at least some backup fat here, some backup energy source, so we're not going to die. Do you see this survival response that the body operates by? And this is the number one reason why we don't preach cutting calories hard. So you might ask yourself, well, what is good sustainable fat loss? I really do think that somewhere around 0.5 to 1 kilo per week is a good rate. And so this would mean that if you're wanting to lose, 20 kilos, then you should be looking at somewhere between 20 and 40 weeks as being a really good amount of time to be able to sustainably lose this fat, which for a lot of people is just, I can't be bothered. And that's based on the fact that you think that you're going to have to change everything. The irony of this is the people that come into the Better Body Academy and follow the plan win over the long term. We don't teach massive calorie cuts. We teach you how to eat without massive restriction. We do it slowly, and we encourage fat loss to be sustainable. We don't tell our people, you can't drink, you can't eat pizza. We say to them, if you drink every day or you eat pizza every day, there's no way in the world you can outrun that. So you need to be mindful of what you're doing, and we operate by something we call the deposit withdrawal strategy. This is where you as long as you're putting in the efforts throughout the course of a week, having 1 or 2 occasions where you withdraw from those deposits is completely fine. What we're talking about here, guys, is a lifestyle shift. We're not talking about a short-term diet, and there is a big, big, big difference. So what is the takeaway message from this podcast episode? Episode 62 is, guys, whether you're coming into the academy or you're doing this solo, it doesn't matter. You need to think about things over the long term. Do away with the shiny objects. Do away with the need to get somewhere by the end of next week. And instead think to myself, would I prefer to lose 20 kilograms over the course of the next 12 months or get 15 kilos off by summer, but then by the end of summer, I can't keep it up. So I end up gaining back 20, and the net difference is that you're up 5 kilograms. Which one are you going to prefer? If you can move your ego to the side and play the long game, which is what we teach inside the academy, you are going to fare much, much better, and it's going to be much more sustainable. And then after a period of time, guess what? it will just become completely normal. And then what will happen is, because you've done it sustainably on the way down, we enact what we call a reverse diet, which is where we slowly build the calories back up again. And guess what? You get back to a relatively large number of calories, eating a lot more of the foods that you want. You don't have to restrict. You don't need to do endless amounts of cardio. You can still have a beer at the weekend, and you're a 45-year-old man, woman, kid, doesn't matter. And it's sustainable. Does this make sense? So hopefully this has been a deep dive which has been simplified enough for you to be able to understand why cutting calories quickly is not a good idea. If you would like to know more, or you would like to inquire about the Academy and you're not already inside it, then feel free to DM me and we can chat about whether it's a good fit for you. Guys, thank you for joining me today, both on Instagram and across all the platforms here on the podcast. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets, unsustainable workout programs. And I love you guys. We'll see you in the next episode.